Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Supporting Academic Success in Latino and Latinx Communities. As you all know, we are celebrating here at VCU and in the Richmond community, the Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, and Heritage Month 2021. So welcome. I'm glad you all are here joining us this afternoon. I want to take the time to thank our partners, OMSA, here at VCU as well. And thank you so much for our panelists for joining us today. Thank you for taking this time out of your busy schedule. We appreciate it. I also want to say thank you to Tyler Conrad, who is the manager of events and communications. And he is managing the technology. So thank you so much, everybody. All right. And so welcome. I'm Vivian Medina-Messner, assistant professor at the Robinson School of Media and Culture. And I'm also a VCU Home Scholar with the School of Education. So it's great to be here with you all today. So our conversation today is about supporting academic success in the Latino and Latinx communities. And as we all know, as educators, as journalists, communicators, people in the community, we know there are a lot of challenges for the Latino, Latinx communities, for Hispanics, especially with COVID, but in general, there are many challenges. However, I thought that it is important also to highlight on our accomplishments, it's important to move away from this model of deficit model that we always hear about the deficit or the deficiencies in the Latinx and Latino communities. So here today, I would like to introduce you to the panelists. They will talk about their experiences. They're going to talk about some successful models that they have. Let me introduce you to our first panelist. All right, so after I introduce our panelists, the audience will have a chance to hear about their journeys, and feel free to ask questions in the Q&A. You just have to write your questions, and we'll be glad to answer that at the end of their presentation. All right, so my first panelist is Kairos Manzanares. Kairos joined WRIC ABC 8 in April 2019 as a digital content producer. She was born in Arlington, Virginia, and raised in Falls Church. Her family is from El Salvador. Kairos is a bilingual journalist who is passionate about covering the news that affects the local Hispanic and Latino community. That's why she started a new digital initiative to bring important news to Richmond growing Hispanic and Latino population, OI and RVA. She is a proud alumna of Virginia Commonwealth University, and she studied in mass communications. She studied broadcast journalism. And of course, now we call it the Robinson School of Media and Culture. During her time at VCU, she also wrote for the Commonwealth Times. She entered at Richmond Magazine, NBC 12, CBL 6, and was a reporter and anchor for VCU Insight. Now, I also have another panelist, Dr. Dina Tamar Garcia. Dr. Dina Tamar Garcia is an assistant professor in the Department of Health, Behavior, and Policy at VCU School of Medicine, where she also leads the Capuyi Research Group. Across VCU, she serves as a faculty advisor for the Society for the Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science, SACNAS, at VCU Student Group. In 2020, she received a Real Challenge at VCU grant from the VCU Office of the Provost to implement Striving and Thriving in STEM, a student-led media campaign spearheaded by SACNAS at VCU. And my third panelist is Lily Mindahangre, Newcomer Academy Specialist with Richmond Public Schools. She is also a VCU alumni from the VCU School of Education. And as the Newcomer Academy Specialist, Ms. Mindahangre is responsible for supporting the implementation, monitoring, and delivery of K-12 Newcomer Academy programs to support the success of the newly arrived K-12 English learners. The Newcomer Academy program supports the EL within shelter instruction, classrooms, coach taught content and language development courses. So she's going to tell us more about it. All right, so let's begin. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Kais.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Manzanares. Like Dr. Medina-Messner mentioned, I am a VCU graduate. I graduated in December of 2018. I'm going to share my screen and pull up my presentation. All right. I definitely had fun with this. I haven't made a presentation in a long time, but I'm going to talk a little bit about how I became a reporter and how I found my way through the higher education system. So a little bit of who I am. I am the daughter of Miguel and Maria Manzanares. It's important for me to always acknowledge my parents because they really helped support me through college. I am a first-generation college student. My sister is 2 years older than me and also went to VCU, so I kind of followed her here, even though I really had no intention of doing that. But she became, that support system that I needed when I got to VCU, and kind of eased that transition because I still felt like I was really close to my family. So there's a couple of things about who I am. Latina, I'm a sister, I'm a digital producer and writer at 8 News. I also like to write on my free time, and I consider myself an amateur cook. I think it's important for everyone to have a diverse group of interest, just because that helps you, kind of dig into different things and connect with people at a different level. And everything about you can be exciting and interesting to others who might not know you. So just a couple of pictures of me. And this is kind of where I'll talk about, my school experience at VCU. For me, it was really important to have a support system and someone who thrives off having a mentor. So when I got there, once you get a little bit further into your, degree, you'll really start to meet the professors that you'll work with for a long time. Professor Sean Collins, who you'll see in that middle picture, was someone who definitely helped me make connections to get internships, and also, was real with me about what to expect at my first job in terms of like salary, how to negotiate a contract, all of those things that I feel like, aren't really taught in school or in college, really talked about. Money can be one of those things that people, it's kind of like a touchy subject, but he was someone who was like straight up and honest with me about what I could expect, and also just how I could, negotiate what I thought I was worth. So that was super inspiring to me, and also helped me get to where I am. I think it's important for you to, like I said, just identify that support system, those mentors that can really help, get to know you, and then in return also serve as references, or, someone who jobs will call employers and ask a little bit more about you. So for me, I think the dream of being a reporter started really young. I used to sit in front of the TV and watch with my grandma and my mom, Univision, Primer Impacto. I'm pretty sure, those are shows that everybody watches. Aquí, Ahora, a big investigative show. So, I kind of fell in love with reporting and TV that way. I thought about it one day, like, I really love TV. I really love talking and communicating. How can I put my skills into one thing? And that's kind of how I decided on my career. And it's been pretty nice so far. I'm only 24 years old, and I feel like I have made a lot of progress where I live. And I think that's important too, as a reporter, knowing, what your community needs and how you can fill those voids. So that leads me to my last slide. Hoy en RVA. So it's a segment that I started at my news station. And it's new. I mean, no one, I say this all the time, but no one at my station speaks Spanish. So what you can see as something normal, every day, if you speak another language, whether it be Spanish, Arabic, French, you might see that as like, oh, that's not really a skill. Like, it's just something that I've grown up with, but it is, because if you really think about it, there's no one else like you, and not everybody's going to have, you know, your skills and attributes. So I really used that to kind of separate myself, but also, you know, it's a passion of mine. So it just kind of happened to align. When coronavirus happened last year, a lot of Latinos were left struggling, trying to find resources, information, things like that online, where to get a COVID vaccine, where to get a COVID test. That information wasn't available for them. And so I tried to make it easy by filtering it into a website and then doing like a video update. And I just kind of put everything that I had ever learned into creating this, writing, reporting, video. So that's kind of how it started. I'm pretty proud of it. And I always say that if I were ever to, you know, leave the station or have another job, I would love if it was continued and in return even be better than what it is now. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm open to answering anything.
I don't have any questions right now. I don't see it from the audience, but I'm curious to know, how did you negotiate with your employer creating OI and RVA? Like you mentioned, nobody speaks Spanish. So how did you convince them?
So my first day when I had the interview, I mentioned to my news director, like, hey, I also speak Spanish. This is something, you know, I've been thinking about, like, you know, the community here, and we have a lot of radio presence, but not a lot of TV presence. If you think of NBC 12, CBS 6, and even Channel 8 had like zero representation online. And that was really difficult for me because I come, like you mentioned before, I was raised in like the Arlington Falls Church area. So you have access to all these media giants in Spanish. And so when I came down here, I was like, okay, like what's happening that we don't have that? Like, do they think the population's just not as big? So on the day of my interview, I like said that, and I said like, hey, this is a goal of mine. And they were like, you know, put the brakes on, you got to learn the job first, which, you know, was cool and all. And I learned the job, but I didn't lose sight of what my goal was. And we had kind of been in talks. I like built the webpage myself. I started translating stuff. I just like kind of took initiative there. And then once the pandemic hit, it kind of really accelerated, you know, the push for this and then the promo and things like that. But I think having those like work goals is important. And also just knowing like, you know, this program's not everything that I want it to be because I'm just one person. And so it's like an extra thing, right? Like a lot of things are when you speak a different language, it's something that, you know, they ask you to do. And then like, if you're interested, you do it. But it's not like really built into your day. So that's one of the struggles of it, if I'm being real. So yeah, so not losing sight of your goal and then introducing it in a way that's like easy for them to understand, right? Because it's a change, it's something new. It's not something that they're going to be like, yeah, let's do it and let's start it immediately. You kind of have to fight for, you know, that representation. And also just from a business perspective, right? You're gaining a whole new audience that can give you access to more ads on your webpage, which will result in more money for your own company. So like, you know, people have to think about it in that way too. Like, it's not just filling that void for that employer to really understand the value of it. Sometimes to them, it is in a dollar form. That's not often, but you know what I mean? You kind of have to find ways to market your idea. That's how I would put it.
Great, thank you so much. All right. Our next panelist is Dr. Dina Garcia.
Let me unshare my screen. I'm so sorry.
All right. 1 second as I get this screen shared. All right. I think it should be working now. So, hello, hola mi gente. I am Dina Garcia. And as Vivian said, I'm an assistant professor here at VCU. So I want to thank her for inviting me to be on this panel today that's focused on how we as a broader community can support the academic success of Latino and Latinx scholars here. I think this is an important topic to discuss, particularly as we stand in the midst of a global pandemic. And as we know, the pandemic has significantly impacted K-12 education, as well as higher ed. I mean, for example, data from the National Student Clearinghouse shows that Latino Latinx enrollment in higher ed fell by about 5.4 percentage points last fall during the pandemic. And when you stratify the type of higher education by type of higher education institution, data shows that Latino Latinx enrollment at public four-year colleges fell nearly 2 percentage points, and enrollment at community colleges fell almost 11 percentage points overall. So we're currently living in a time when a global pandemic is further exacerbating already existing inequities in education and structural inequities that impact even accessing different outside of education resources to health, et cetera. And so this requires a call to action, and particularly as it pertains to how we as a broader community of family members, friends, mentors, professionals, faculty members, how we collectively mobilize resources to support the academic success of Latino and Latinx scholars. So today I want to share with you an example of how students and faculty at VCU mobilized during the pandemic to develop a media initiative titled Striving and Thriving in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math at VCU. So this is a multimedia initiative that was launched in April of this year to celebrate and uplift the journeys of historically underrepresented students, faculty, and staff at VCU. And by sharing our stories in STEM, the goal is to change the prevalent hegemonic discourse of who belongs in STEM and who thrives in STEM. So oftentimes we celebrate individuals in STEM when they receive a grant, a fellowship, publish a paper, or get an internship, but why not celebrate individuals simply for being scholars in STEM, right? We already know based on research from scholars at the Pew Institute, for example, that Black and Latino Latinx adults are less likely to earn degrees in STEM than other degree fields, and that they continue to make up a lower share of STEM graduates relative to the share of the adult populations, right? So addressing those widening disparities in STEM education requires for us to first and foremost celebrate those scholars that are currently working towards redressing such disparities. So for us, Striving and Thriving in STEM is a call to action for all of us to socially support and celebrate STEM students, faculty, and staff at VCU. So with funding from the VCU Office of the Provost and in collaboration with the Society for the Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science student group at VCU, 2 interns were hired this year to develop the campaign branding and content. And once the media branding was finalized, we needed to identify scholars to highlight in that campaign. And so that process usually took place as, taking nominations from individuals. And these nominations weren't just necessarily from faculty members, but anyone. If you had a friend that was in STEM, you wanted to nominate them, you sent an email to our campaign website. And once we had the names of those that were to be nominated, we then send them an invitation, and if they accepted, they participated in a media session where they were photographed and interviewed by the 2 interns. And then once that took place, then their story was published on the website. And so here I want to give an example of how a story looks. So here we see, for example, Stacy Ruiz, which she was a senior at VCU that graduated this past May. She's currently at Harvard doing her master's in global health. But as you could see, Stacy was photographed by the interns, and then her interview, which is published on the website, has a variety of different responses to 4 different questions. And then after that interview was published, Stacy also partook in an Instagram live session where she had the opportunity to engage with community members in a live session dialogue regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion in STEM. And so as you could see, the campaign isn't just, publishing the stuff on the website, but really is how can we garner that support, that participation of not just people within VCU, but in the broader community, sort of like Katie's was showing us with the ONRVA initiative, right? How can we mobilize individuals locally to really support each other and uplift our stories and our voices? And so these stories were integral in not just supporting scholars like Stacy, but also in reinforcing that positive STEM identity within them, right? That they can do this, and then they will do this, and that they will continue to thrive, sort of like Stacy, as I just mentioned, she's now doing her master's degree. And so what does this mean now for us, right? I think now the Striving and Thriving campaign is an example of how we could mobilize individuals at VCU, the importance of including students in spearheading this process. So the SACNAS at VCU group being that important catalyst in not just identifying the interns, hiring the interns, but really also promoting that campaign within the student body, which is also goes to show the importance of supporting us like faculty, us as mentors, supporting students in leading these efforts, because I think that's an important aspect of also developing their leadership. And as they move on in their career trajectory, sort of like Katie's demonstrated, then they go on to a job and they create their own initiatives, right? But that leadership has to be fostered specifically when they are already in undergrad. So I think Striving and Thriving in STEM it's an example of how even within a pandemic, people were able to get together, mobilize towards a common goal. Beyond VCU, the campaign has reached thousands of individuals. Our website has been visited by individuals, for example, in Canada, Italy, the Netherlands. And that's an important I think metric to share with everyone to really show that, stories and the use of media could transcend, right? Even boundaries geographically from nations, right? Because this idea and this concept of being a scholar in STEM is a universal concept, right? That many people could relate to, not just here in the US. And so it's very important for us to continue the campaign. So the call to action today is how can you join these efforts, right? If you have anyone that you want to nominate to be featured, nominate them. You could go on the website, www.sacnas@vcu.com, enter their name, email, and then we'll get the message. You could also send an email to thriving@vcu@gmail.com and nominate individuals in that manner. If you want to share the stories, you could share our website with others. You could also visit our Instagram page at thriving@vcu, and you'll see some of the different individuals that are being featured. And so pretty much that's the call to action, is for us to continue to mobilize, to uplift our stories, and to collectively just support each other. And I think that we have demonstrated that this is possible even within a pandemic. And so again, we hope that you could join efforts and share the website with others. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Garcia. I don't see any questions right now with the public, but can you talk about a little bit more about the opportunities? If you're not a STEM student, of course, at the Robinson School of Media and Culture, we focus on media, but I think one of your interns was in the communications, right?
Yes.
So can you talk a little about the opportunities if you're not in STEM?
Yes, so many people think, oh, I'm not in STEM, I'm not going to be part of Striving and Thriving. No, 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 no. This is a collaboration effort. We need everybody as that we can. And so as Vivian was mentioning, two of the interns that we hired, one was in the School of the Arts, she in graphic design, and the other, so her name was Nicole. And then Wayne Coleman was a student in your school, Vivian, and in mass communications. And so he did a lot of the interviewing and the photographing as well. And so that's a prime example of how even if you're not a traditional STEM major, that maybe you could serve as an intern, right? And maybe you have free time to photograph, maybe you have some free time to do some interviewings. You want to get more experience doing that, by all means, you don't have to devote an entire, all my Fridays, all my Saturdays, right? Even if it's just, I have 5 hours in this semester, let's make it work, right? Because I think it's important to also, contribute in any way that inform that you can, but also know your limits, right? So, I mean, don't say you're going to do 50 hours and then you're like, oh my goodness, I have all these exams, etc. But again, Vivian, thank you for emphasizing that, because the call for action is for everyone, and there's opportunities for even those outside of STEM fields.
Thank you. All right. And our third panelist is Lily Minjahagri. She's the newcomer Academy Specialist with RPS. And go ahead, Lily, share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good early evening, everyone. I am thrilled, so excited to have this opportunity to share a little bit about our program here at RPS. I am also overjoyed to be joined by VCU alumni. I feel like this is our little alumni party time here as we are together, and how beautiful it is for me to hear and see that we are sharing vision and passion for this particular student population that we serve in our communities. So thank you. And I would also be remiss if I did not acknowledge the amazing superintendent of Richmond Public Schools. The fact that I have this opportunity to be with you all here for RPS, to have this academy, is because of the amazing Jason Cameras. Mr. Cameras, that, who positions his entire division, all staff, is positioned to lead with love, teach with love. He is a robust advocate of our English learners. And also, I am so blessed and beyond grateful to have Dr. Jeanette Duhart as the bilingual Title III coordinator in the division, or as Mr. Cameras calls Dr. Duhart, the force to reckon with. So there is robust advocacy for our students. And I am Lily Mirjahangri, the Newcomer Academy Specialist for the division. I joined RPS last year as Newcomer Academy Coordinator for high school at George Worth High School, where I am actually connecting with you all right now. And the Academy came to life based on the needs assessment, as you see, that the LEAP department ran in 2019-2020. We were seeing 33% growth in the English learner population. So they designed, put all of the program pieces together for the Academy 6 through 12 opt-in to kick off on September 8th, 2020, the most challenging school year, not locally, but globally. But this group did not wait, did not pause. The pandemic was not, a stopping point for us. So we launched the Academy at the high school and middle school levels for the 6 through 12. As we thrive for nothing but excellence and equitable access for all of our students. And so in 2020, 2021, we serviced 167 newcomers at our high school and 100 students at River City Middle School. So River City and George Wythe, they were the two schools that they were central physical points for getting all of our newcomers in. And the LEAP department equipped both schools with the strongest and the largest ESL teacher team to serve our students in sheltered classes as well as co-taught classes. So we are so proud to claim we are the bridge that supports, connects, and motivates English learners towards success. Now, let's take a look at, what do you mean by newcomers? Who are these newcomers? So our newcomers are the, newly arrived in the US. They come with amazing and diverse linguistic and literacy backgrounds. And of course, they have specific needs. Everything that we do, we try to individualize as much as we can, meeting our students where they are and providing them the support that they need as we push them through success. We push them through the finish line. When it comes to the English language proficiency levels, many of you might be familiar and aware that we're looking at 4 levels. So our newcomers are the students who are newly arrived, who have received less than 12 months of instruction in a US school, and we call them, and they must be our level 1 students. So by level 1 is a 1-1.9, and these are all of the 4 domains, all of the 4 language skill domains: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. So I'm so proud to share, this is our structure this year, 21-22. So as I shared, in the most historic year of 2020-2021, we had the academy, the program servicing 6 through 12. I'm so proud of all of my colleagues. They've done such a wonderful job that our student success data and teacher success data helped us expand the program so that this year we are servicing all pre-K through 12. So this year it's me as the Newcomer Academy Specialist for the division. And I have 3 amazing colleagues in my team for elementary, middle, and high school. So we have for middle school and high school, River City and George Wythe continue to stay as the central points for our students. However, if we have newcomers who are not zoned to those schools and the parents, they want the students to attend the schools in their zones, we go and we service our students in those schools. For elementary, all of our students, they will be in instructional groups. Each LEAP team has a lead, and those leads will work with the principals, designated assistant principals working with the LEAP teams, and they put our newcomers in instructional groups. So they are identified and we service our students in the buildings that they are. So we're so excited, so proud that, we have robust advocacy and support from Mr. Cameras and his entire team. His chiefs, they hold us accountable for nothing but, for delivering nothing but the best to all of the students. They continue to check with me and our team on where do we stand with the numbers, how we are monitoring the numbers of incoming newcomers into the metro area, and how well prepared we are to serve more and more students. As you know, all school divisions, they have year-round enrollment. These are the stats that I'm so proud to share with you. So in our semester 1 of last year, our students, look at the pass rates. They speak for themselves, 100%, 100% in all of their newcomer classes. And then for the world history, we're sitting at 96%. It's almost 97. And it was because 2 of our students, they dropped out of the program because they moved, the families moved to other states. And these were things that you understand that it's out of our control. And it was, as you all know, pandemic related. A lot of our families lost their jobs in our area and they had to go elsewhere for employment. And here are some pictures to add more spice and back up those numbers. This is actually this year. So within weeks of starting our school year, this is River City. The group that you're seeing here, these are our newcomer students actually giving a tour to what the newcomer teacher says, the strangers. So the strangers in the building. So they led the building tour and helped other groups to navigate River City. Next, here is Grace. We welcomed her in our Newcomer Academy last October. And look at her right now. This is Grace passing her Algebra 1. This is a student who is coming to school. And I was all in tears. I was bawling as I went to her house and picked her up and brought her to Huguenot School for SOL testing, and how relaxed she was. And this is in the morning, the beginning of the test. And then in the afternoon, we got her score and she passed her algebra. This is a strong testament that I know all of my amazing colleague panelists, they agree with me. Once we connect our students with resources, they not only thrive, but they continue to outperform their counterparts. So this is where we are always in need of more resources for our students. It's not always about the content. It's not always about their academic needs. It's a plethora of a lot of things that we have to provide our students to make school the safest environment for them, and help them power through and make it to a successful finish line. This is Leonardo. This is our Leonardo. Last year, Leonardo was our newcomer, and look at him shining in his honor calculus class, and his teacher, who is also our math department chair, he texted me a few weeks ago and said, look at your Leonardo. He took over and now he's teaching. So again, I wanted to add these pictures to glorify the stats that I just shared with you. We are so proud of the teachers in our program. They are our brave frontline soldiers, day in, day out. They're unstoppable, round the clock. They're there for our students. And with all of their hard work, our students are making success story after success story. So we are excited. The team, the LEAP team, they are all on their toes, energized to do more for our students and add more components to our newcomer program as we are in 21-22 now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lily, for sharing this. And so as we wait for more questions from the audience, can you talk a little bit, Lily, about how do we as educators or educational institutions support also the families who are with the students? Because in reading research and literature, it says that the more connected the families are, the better it is. So how do you connect the families to the Newcomer Academy and to the success of the students?
Yes. So, again, I have to go back to the amazing Jason cameras. This is RPS, and we have Office of Engagement, where we work with that team. Family liaisons, bilingual family liaisons, that they are in our school buildings. There are certain hubs that those family liaisons are centered. And families, they are big part of this equation, and the outreach to our families and working on having, different kinds of workshops, professional developments for our families to equip them with all that they need to know to stay connected with the schools, and then also building that robust support system at home for our children. So lots go in RPS. A lot it is invested, from staffing to literature to having events that they are specifically targeting, servicing our families. There's a lot of investment in Richmond Public Schools. We have our Welcome Center, which is the first point where our newcomer families, they come, where the English learners, they come for getting enrolled in our schools. And then that team also supports our families as they come in, and connects them with the family liaisons in the school buildings where our students get directed to. And I also have one big figure to share that I forgot during my presentation. This year, as of yesterday, we have 352 newcomers in the program. Out of the 352, 344 are our Latino Hispanics. So 97%, almost 98% of our parent and student population, they are Latin Hispanics. We're so proud of them, and we stop at nothing to do more to meet them where they are, and provide assistance for all the kind of wraparound support that they need.
Great, thank you. Well, on that note, since the Latino, Latinx, and Hispanic population is growing in Richmond, Kairis, do you want to talk a little bit about, through your reporting, what are some things, some needs, some interests from the emerging Latino community from your reporting experience?
I think just, highlighting what resources are out there. I'm not sure if it's part of the newcomers program, but RPS does have a program too that's called Con Ganas. And it really pushes the students. They're part of this group, and it serves as a big support system for them. So like highlighting those pieces in the community, so parents, who are watching the news or could see a report are like, oh, I want my kid to be in that, or that seems like something that would benefit my family, right? And then they go ahead and they put their kid in there, and then now their kid is getting all the support that they need in the school. So finding, those points of what could make a change, right, in the life, and highlighting the resources that are out there, like I mentioned before, and just keeping people informed with what's going on in their community. I do find that is very hard, right? Especially for Latinos, their parents might work very long hours, might not have time to watch the news or, keep up with what's going on in schools. Personally, like that was my experience. My parents, worked all the time. They were very hands-off in my high school and also college career. So that brought me back to why it's important, right, to find the mentorship and the support you need, because you might not always have it at home. Even if your parents are supportive, they might not understand, right? For me, a big issue that I had to overcome was FAFSA, and filling out those applications and telling my parents, like, I need your tax forms, and like I need them right now, and they're like, okay, like, they didn't really understand that part of the college experience, right? Which, having programs like, she just mentioned, like, I wish I had that program at my high school, but times were really different, at least, a couple years ago. And so, I didn't have that. So it's like, those things could really make a change in your life or make you feel like supported. Sometimes you feel alone, right, in the process. So you're like, you know what, like, I don't want to deal with that. I'm not going to fill out the FAFSA form, or, I'm not going to fill out a scholarship form. But it's like, that could literally change your life or get you the money that you need to go to school. So.
Very true. And even at the Robinson School of Media and Culture, when we have scholarships, some students don't necessarily apply. So it's important to apply for sure. Now, based on your VCU experience, can you tell us a little bit about, what type of support, what you like, what you didn't like, what you think that as educators at VCU and communicators, we could do a better job?
Well, I think, Dr. Garcia's point about, she kind of starting this group where, Native Americans can come in, Latinos, feel supported. Sometimes you are the minority in places like this, even though VCU is, diverse. The more you get into your concentration, the more you realize like there's maybe one other Latino in your, in your concentration. And so then, that becomes like, your sisterhood or brotherhood. And so having those groups is important. For me, I was a part of VCU Trio services. And so they are kind of like, they help you while you're in college. Any scholarships that you want to apply to, like you just mentioned, like they really motivate you, find other opportunities for you. And also like, you're in charge of like giving tours or, explaining to kids that are coming in or looking at VCU as an option, like that resource exists. I wish there was something like that for Latinos at VCU, right? Specifically geared towards them, because a lot of them might feel in my shoes, right? How do I navigate applying to FAFSA every year? Or your financial circumstances change. For example, my last 2 years of college, I worked as a server at Three Monkeys, so right up the street, in order to support my studies, right? Even the $100 can help you buy a textbook, can help you, in your class or with equipment or with anything you need. So having, that course that kind of is all around, right, can help you find opportunities even while you're in school, I think would be important and something that, I would feel proud to say, hey, VCU has this, as an option. And they might have it now, but back then it wasn't like made a big deal out of like, hey, we're really gonna push Latino success. It's kind of like once you're already in college, it's like, oh, you're successful, you're already here. But navigating the college world is a completely different thing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, Dina, can you talk a little bit about also your other research group, Capuyi, and how you work with students in terms of research and like Karis was saying about navigating the higher education. Once you're there, how do you help them? How do you support them, or how do you collaborate with them?
Well, I think it's so important to first emphasize, right, that like even the mere fact of, being in a university, being in a major, sometimes, we get so caught up in just focusing on completing the class, etc., that we forget that we could have the power to not just take the class, but to make sure that the class and the work that we do with that class is impactful and connected to our communities. And so I think as an educator, as faculty member here at VCU, that's one of the things that I try to emphasize a lot is we could do research, right? And we could do our papers, but let's focus it on something that's meaningful to us. Each of us are guided by different values, right? And by different things that are important in our lives, right? And there shouldn't be a disconnect or a divorce, right? Between that and school, right? We are who we are. We bring it with us everywhere that we go. And so that's part of the reason when I first came to VCU in 2018 that I said, you know what, I want to start a research research group, and a research group that's focused on what I value. So Calpul is actually a Nahuatl word that means community, unity, love. And so for me, it's like, of course, it's a community research group, right? And we focus on conducting research that's relevant to meeting the needs of diverse communities here in Richmond. We have a project focusing on the oral health of refugee populations here in the area. We have a project that's focusing on the health needs of Latino, Latinx populations in rural Southwest Virginia, which if you didn't know and you haven't been to Galex, there's a lot of Latinos there, you know, and people sometimes forget about that because obviously a lot of the attention is in Nova or in Central Virginia, right? But we are everywhere, right? But nonetheless, I think that's an important aspect to emphasize is making that connection, right, in our work that we do, and making it meaningful. Sort of like Kiris showed, you know, she did an initiative that was impactful to her community, right? The work that RPS is doing, developing programming that's specifically relevant to the needs of communities, right? And so I think that's an important aspect of demonstrating the power of not just getting in institutions or even graduating, but using then our resources and our knowledge to really make an impact in that way.
Thank you. Well, we still have a few minutes. I do want to mention that Miriam Kadiba, Dr. Kadiba mentioned that Kiri's, she said, learn the job first is so interesting, as though your goal to increase representation is opposite from the job. Thank you for sharing your experience. So happy you did it. You did not lose sight of your goal. Yeah, I just wanted to share that and highlight that. Well, we still have a few minutes, and as we wait for questions from the audience, now, of course, we are celebrating Latinx, Latino, Hispanic Heritage Month, and soon it will be also the Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month. So I want to give a little shout out to the OMSA events that we're going to be having soon as well. Let's talk a little bit, since I do have a little bit of time, about the cultural aspect. Maybe each one of my panelists can talk a little bit about, you know, maybe that diversity in terms of culture. My heritage is Colombian American. I grew up I was born in New York, in Brooklyn, New York, but I lived between Miami and Europe. And so I bring all that, which is a big package, to education. And so can you talk a little bit about maybe making that connection to your heritage, your cultural heritage, and then how does that show up in your work or your research or your interests? Thank you.
I think if I may go, it's just for us academically, and you saw in my first slide, it's our curriculum, culturally relevant curriculum. So day in, day out, we are about celebrating culture and heritage in our schools, in our classrooms, with our students. So, you know, one example for this month, we had a presentation created by our LEAP department and our newcomer lead teacher, going around in school every day, visiting one country and where the country is, what are the traditions, and then having a trivia for all staff and students to participate in, and then giving prizes to our students. So we're bringing a whole lot of attention to our students' identity, to the fact that, hey, not two students from Guatemala are the exact same. Let's get to know them. Let's get to explore our students who you assume they speak the same language. Last year, we had so much fun because we put a positive spin on everything that comes across as a barrier. And we want to switch. We want to work across departments to change that mindset, to go for a shift in the mindset and not use deficit anymore, to have, asset based approaches when we are working with our English learners. So day in, day out, beginning with the curriculum, all eyes on the newcomer curriculum, gotta be culturally relevant, and helping our students to get acclimated to what is an American middle school like, what is an American high school like. The fact that I was sharing that picture that our newcomer students, they were in one group, and in just few days working with their teachers, they joined in giving a school tour. These are some of them were the students that this is their first time stepping in a school building, because of the countries that they come from, because of their the beautiful stories that they come here with. Many of our newcomers, they haven't been in a school building. This is their first time when coming to school and learning. So it's celebration of culture and heritage is a big element in all of the dimensions of our programs.
Thank you. Dina, would you like to follow up on the cultural richness that you bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, identities are important, right? And not just cultural, like all our identities that we have, because they shape our worldview, right? They shape how we approach things. And I talk about this all the time. Like, I was born in Mexico, Guadalajara, Mexico. I came to the US when I was 2, right? I became a US citizen when I was in, I think it was 2nd grade, right? And then I grew up in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is very different than Virginia. Let me tell you, like the majority of Latinos in Milwaukee are either Mexican or Puerto Rican, right? So I have a lot of Puerto Rican friends. I had a lot of Mexican friends. And then I come down here and I'm like, oh, wow, it's a lot more Central Americans, right? It's very different dynamics than the Midwest. And so I think for me, it's important for me to also acknowledge that, right? That, we're not a monolith, right? We have so many different diverse experiences, even being a Mexicana in the US, right? Very different than if I would have grown up in Virginia versus Milwaukee, right? It took me a long while to find some good tacos, but now I did, right? But, different aspects like that. And I think that's important because even when I approach different students, when we do our work here with Striving and Thriving, et cetera, I think first and foremost is not making assumptions, right? That everything's the same, because it's not. We have different experiences. And I think it's important for us to not focus on the differences, but focus on the diversity of how we each view the world, and understanding that that's also an important part of how we're going to do our work, right? The programs that we do, right? We can't just do a one size fits all, because that's not the case, right? It's a very, very, very diverse group of people. So that's my take on it. Now we could turn it over to Kairos.
And I love that point that you make, because, we all fit in so many different boxes. Most of the time it's hard to narrow down, who am I, right? And I refer back to my first slide, I really thought about it, okay, who am I? Being Latinas and being, first generation, and having my parents be from El Salvador, that is who I am. And knowing that identity and being proud of it, right? And not, shaming who you are, not, toning down your accent, really owning who you are is what's going to help you celebrate your culture wherever you go, and show people everyone's different. It's Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's not just do stories on restaurants. Let's do stories on, highlighting the community members who are making a change and impacting other people. Because yes, food's beautiful to celebrate, but it's, we have to, in terms of media, we have to think that our viewers, want to see different things, want to see packages on quinceañeras and maybe a pupusa story, something like that, something different that shows that, we're not just that one, not just Hispanics, not just Latinos. You have, different things that you identify as this person. So.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. Yes, for all my panelists, and like you were saying, this is a great opportunity to celebrate our heritage, our culture, not just one day, not just 1 month, but we bring a lot to the table in many fields, whether it's journalism, communication, education, art. I mean, so thank you so much. I appreciate everybody taking the time to highlight our contributions. Also, like we were saying, moving away from this deficit model, but more thinking, okay, the assets that we bring, and all the contributions, I think that's important. And thank you for all the work that you do. And let's keep, pa adelante, como dicen. All right, thank you so much. Gracias, everybody. Ciao. Thank you.